Welcome to the Project Management PrepCast, helping you prepare for the PMP exam. Here's your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner.
Hello and welcome back to the Project Management PrepCast. We're the PMP exam preparation course that removes all the fears that you may have around the exam. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner, and in this lesson we are going to take a look at the dreaded exam audit and show you, well, it's not really all that bad. We're going to talk about understanding the audit process. We'll describe why PMI performs these audits at all. You will understand how to best prepare for a possible audit. Well, and as a result of all of this, you are going to realize that the chances of being audited are really quite low, and you should just relax and take it as it comes. First of all, to learn more about audits, begin by reading the PMP Credential Handbook. And the image here on the right is its front cover, by the way. In particular, look for the section about the PMI audit process and do go ahead and do read through it. It's really rather straightforward, and in the coming slides we'll give you all the information you would find in the handbook as well. But PMI sometimes changes things, so it's always a good idea to also open up the official information and read through it, maybe in parallel as you're watching this lesson here. I'd also like to mention that if at the end of this presentation you still have any questions about the audit process, then please go to the PMI website where you will find an extensive FAQ in the certifications section. At the time of this recording, there were 31 questions and answers there, and they should pretty much cover any questions that you may have. You can also look for the link to this FAQ in our student handbook. It'll take you directly to the FAQ. Before we get into any of the audit details, you need to remember and understand that when you sign up for any PMI exam, you agree that your application may get audited. So you really want to make sure that you fill in your application truthfully, because if your application contains nothing but the truth, then, well, you have nothing to fear from the audit. From the Credentials Handbook, we learn the following about audits. All applications are subject to an audit, although only a percentage of applications are actually then also selected for that audit. And the selection of an application for an audit is completely at random. The more interesting question is, of course, why? Why does PMI have audits at all? Well, that's simple. PMI conducts application audits to confirm the experience and education documented on credential applications. The purpose of the audit is also to enhance the credibility of the certification program and the credential holder. So in essence, the audits ensure that only qualified individuals apply for and attain PMI credentials, because for each credential, a specific percentage of applications are then randomly selected for audit. And the result of all of this is one of the reasons that all of PMI's credentials retain their high regard. And then, at least once every month, I will come across a message in a news group or forum that talks about the fact that PMI application audits are not random because a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend told me that PMI looks at your application and based on the profile, you will get audited. Well, frankly, these are worthless speculations because audits are seriously a random affair. Because I say this because according to PMI, all audits are random. That's all that we are told officially. And any sort of audit triggers that you could imagine, profiling, application gaps, types of projects you have worked on, types of education you have had, they are pure speculation. And frankly, these kind of speculations, they don't help anyone. They don't especially help you at all. So don't worry. You either will or you will not get audited, period. Instead of worrying about it, you should know how the audit process works, so congratulations to you for watching this lesson here. You should be prepared for the possibility of an audit, and in the event that your application is indeed selected for an audit, you have to follow the instructions from PMI on how to respond. So, let's take a look at the audit process. If you are selected for an audit, then you will know very quickly, because PMI will send you an email about it. And this email also contains detailed instructions on how is the audit going to be processed. Also, once you are being audited, then the clock stops. By this we mean that normally you have 1 year following your application to take the exam. But during the audit, this clock stops and does not continue after your audit has been processed. So, if, for example, your audit takes 6 weeks, then you have your usual 1 year eligibility to take the exam, and also the 6 weeks that it took for you to complete the audit with PMI. So there is no time lost for you in regards to your eligibility period to take the PMP exam. No, PMI knows that, understands that, and adds the 6 weeks that it took for you to complete the audit to your 1 year eligibility period. After you get the info about being audited and then log into your account at PMI, you will find the audit package waiting here for you. This package contains all the details that you have submitted in your application, and this package also once again contains the instructions that you have to follow. If you have already filled in your application at this time, then you know that on your application you have to fill in names of contact persons for each of your projects that you have worked on. So now you have to print that package and then give the appropriate section to these contact persons that you have named in your application. Your contact persons, they now have to read the information and they have to verify that everything that you have put into your application is correct. They have to sign the documents that you have sent them. They have to put it into a sealed envelope, and then they have to turn the envelope around, and on the back of the envelope across the flap they are going to have to sign once again. Sort of, they close the envelope and then they almost put a seal over it by signing it and making sure that the envelope isn't tampered with. And yes, PMI is very serious about that. In addition to this confirmation from your contact persons, you are also going to have to make photocopies of the certificates of training that you have received. For example, from your diplomas, your master's degree, your bachelor's degree, your high school diplomas, etc., and from the training courses that show that you have received your training contact hours in project management. So you have purchased the PM PrepCast here, and you will receive a certificate for contact hours from us once you take your final exam. So simply make a photocopy of that certificate and include it in your package. And then you are going to have to send the sealed envelopes from your contact persons and the photocopies of your certificates to PMI for review within 90 days. Here it's important to realize that you have the power to expedite the audit process. The sooner you respond, the sooner it is processed. PMI is usually rather quick in processing your audit documents after you send them back, and in some cases it can take as little as 4 days. And then, of course, once PMI has received your audit package, then they will inform you about their decision that your audit has been accepted or declined via email. Here are some more important points to remember about returning the audit documents to PMI. The good news for everybody is that the experience verification forms and your copies of your bachelor's or master's degree, they do not have to be notarized. A simple photocopy is sufficient. So, once you have everything ready, you can simply send your completed audit forms by regular postal mail or express courier service back to PMI. PMI will not accept faxed or emailed audit documents. PMI also doesn't accept an email signature, so you cannot email to your contact persons and then they will return everything via email and then you print out their responses. No, they have to print it, they have to sign it, it has to be an original signature on the document, and they have to physically mail everything back to you in that sealed and signed envelope. Also, when you send your documents to PMI, please do send everything at once. And as I have said before, if you are able to provide the necessary documentation to PMI, then the audit takes about 5 to 7 business days on PMI's side to complete. But like I said, I've heard of instances where it was 4 days or even below. So it's a rather quick and straightforward process from the side of PMI. If you are really unlucky and you fail the audit, then here is what is going to happen. PMI will refund the credential fee minus a processing fee to you. Your application will, of course, be rejected, and then PMI further writes on their website that the certification department will address further actions on a case-by-case basis. They do not specify what exactly this means, and I personally only know of one single person who has failed the audit. He failed because one of his contact persons disagreed with the information that he provided on the application form to PMI. The measure that the certification department took in his case were rather drastic. He is now no longer eligible to apply for any PMI certification at all. Not the PMP, not the PMI ACP, not the CAPM, none of them. But remember, this is the single person I know in almost 10 years of teaching for PMI certification. So don't let this get to you. Instead, let's use his story here as a motivation to prepare and make certain that this does not happen to you. That much said, here are my recommendations for you and how you should prepare today for an eventual audit. First of all, just realize that there is a 50-50 chance that you will or will not get audited. Be truthful on your PMI application. Stick to the truth. Don't stretch the truth. Have everything you write in the application documented. Make sure you have your diplomas. Make sure you have your training certificates available. And this is maybe the most important part. Contact your former employers, supervisors, colleagues before you submit your application. Because, after all, you do name them in your application as your contact person. Tell them that you are applying for the PMP exam and that if you should get audited, that they would have to review and confirm your application. Even better, show them what you have written in your application. Send them a copy of your notes about the projects you worked on and ask if they agree with what you have written about your participation in that particular project. This is a positive and proactive way to approach your application. As I said before, worrying about whether or not you will get audited because you fit a certain profile is futile, because you'll just worry too much. Instead of investing energy into worrying, invest the energy into properly studying for the exam. And that's really it. Be truthful, be prepared, and don't worry. That's a positive way to approach a possible and usually very unlikely audit by PMI on your application. On the screen you right now see the 2 links to the resources mentioned, the Credentials Handbook and also the PMI Audit FAQ. Impossible to remember and type in. Yes, of course, that's why we have these links for you in the student workbook. Just open it up and click and you will be taken to these resources instantly. And with that, we have come to the end of this lesson. So it's time for Justine to say,
Adios, amigos.
And of course, I say, until next time.